So next we're going to make a lovely butternut squash and sweet potato soup. So we're going to start by sauteing some onions and garlic in a little oil for a few minutes. Then we add our leek and our carrot. We make up a vegetable stock, this vegetable stock cubes here. Then we add our butternut squash. So we first of all peel the squash, cut the two ends off, cut it down the middle and then scoop out the seeds. Then cut the squash into cubes and add that to the soup. Then we have our sweet potatoes, which we will peel and then cube and add to the soup. And our two spices, so we've cinnamon, which is a lovely spice I use in quite a few recipes, and then nutmeg, which is a spice I don't use so much. So if you don't have nutmeg yourself, don't worry, the soup is still nice without it, but it does add a lovely extra flavour, a lovely autumn flavour to the soup, so nice if you have it. So carotenoids are a type or a class of phytonutrients which gives vegetables an orange pigment. So for this soup we have a triple whammy of carotenoids in carrot, butternut squash and the sweet potato. So loads of good stuff in this soup. So let's get started. Okay, so we have a bit of peeling and chopping to do to prepare this soup. So we start with the butternut squash, just cutting the two ends off, then peeling it. The peeling doesn't have to be too perfect, just to really get the outer skin off. Then we chop it down the middle, just being careful to cut away from our hands so to avoid any finger accidents. And then scraping the seeds out into a bowl. And then we cut the squash into cubes, again keeping our fingers out of the way and cutting away from our hands where possible. And then peeling our sweet potato and chopping those into cubes too. Then our carrot, peeling and chopping. And then our leek, just cutting it lengthways into quarters and then chopping it horizontally. So then we can add our onion and garlic to the pan, which we've also peeled and chopped, and saute for a few minutes until the onion starts to become soft and translucent. After that we add our chopped carrots and our leek and stir around and cook for another minute or so. Then we can add our stock, which we've made by dissolving a stock cube in the water. And then our sweet potato and our squash. Next we add our spices and then bring the soup to a boil and turn it down to a simmer, and then we can cover it with a lid. So we leave that to simmer for around 25 minutes and then the soup should be ready to blend. So I'm using a hand blender to blend the soup, and if you are using a hand blender, just be careful to keep the blade well below the surface of the soup so not to get sprayed with hot soup. Ideally a deeper pot would be more ideal, however just for the purposes of showing the recipe better I've used quite a shallow pot. If you don't have a hand blender, you can use a normal blender and transfer the soup in batches. However, a hand blender is very handy and saves on some washing up. So we just serve the soup in two bowls and add some fresh black pepper. So this soup is a real crowd pleaser. Perfect. So it freezes well as well, so you can make portions ahead for a quick lunch, and it tastes fabulous.